What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to talk about a topic that everyone seems to be interested in, and that is, should you buy a motorcycle or a car from the auction? I've bought multiple bikes and motorcycles from the auction, as you see. This one over here, and then the scooter that I made a video a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to make this video so I can show you if you should buy a motorcycle from the auction. There's a lot of stuff that you need to consider when buying a motorcycle from the auction, and that is the damage. Because motorcycles are small vehicles, and usually when they go into auctions they have they're basically in a car accident, in a wreck, or whatever it takes for them to be written off by the insurance companies. So there are a couple of things that you need to take note of, and it's best to see the bike at the auctions and not bid without looking at it in the first place. So the first thing to look at a motorcycle is the actual frame. You want to see if there's any damage, any dents, any broken welds, especially with the older bikes that have some rust. Because if the frame is bent or damaged, it will be very difficult to repair. And also because motorcycles only have two wheels and they're smaller vehicles, you will have issues with alignment and other problems. The second thing is that you need to look at the suspension. If the suspension is broken, that's a very pricey thing on a motorcycle, because it usually costs about $2,000, and then when you put in the auction fees and other expenses, it might not be even worth it to purchase the bike. And the third thing is you need to check with your state how can you register a motorcycle, because as you know, there are different type of branding for motorcycles. There's salvage, and then there's also certificate of destruction. If you have a certificate of destruction, you cannot ride the bike legally on the road. However, you can use it on the track or just for parts usually. So to take an example, this bike, I bought it about a year and a half ago from Arizona, which means there's no rust. It's a 2019 Suzuki SV650 with the ABS, and this bike was wrecked on its side. So it fell on its side, the exhaust was bent. As you see here, it's still a little bent, but I haven't fixed that because that's where the cat is, and the cat is expensive, but it still works fine. So I had to change the exhaust, I had to change all the plastic, the seats, the tail light, the bracket, the gas tank. I had to change the radiator and the fan because it was broken. Thankfully the suspension was good, but I also had to change the turn signals, the handlebars, and every control on the handlebars. And as you can see here, the screen is still a little bit damaged, but it works. And I haven't changed the screen because it costs a really lot of money to change the screen, and also you will lose your mileage if you change that screen. So when you take that into consideration, you have to make a decision. Is it worth it for you to purchase this bike on auction? And if it is, what are the parts, what are you going to change, what is the rough cost? So you have to make a plan about it. And one other thing is that auctions like Copart and IAA have a lot of fees. And I bought this car from IAA. It was $1,500 and it only had 1,200 miles. But after all the auction fees, it was basically $2,200. So you have to consider the auction fees too, because it adds like a $700-800 on top of the cost of the bike. And the other thing is that you have to see who is the seller on these auctions. The main auctions for these motorcycle cars and other equipment is usually Copart and IA. And on these both sites you have to see if the seller is a private seller or an insurance company. For this bike, it was actually an insurance company, it was State Farm, and that is the best option. And you may ask why, and it's because insurance companies usually have these bikes full coverage, and when the rider has an accident, they write them off and they send them to the auction as is without changing anything, and they show the full damage. So you can have a so you can have a better understanding of what was damaged and what was not. Whereas on private sellers, they can buy the bikes from the insurance companies, fix them up a little bit so it doesn't look like the damage was big, and then send them back to the auctions for the sale to be at a higher price. So you have to consider that too, which is a big thing, because many private sellers hide the big damage and they mark it as it's in good condition, and you may look at it from the pictures, there's not much damage, and then when you take off the plastics, there's frame damage or other type of damage. But as you see, on my opinion, it's really worth it to purchase these bikes in the auction, because as I said, you can have a great deal. So this bike, for example, it costed me $2,200, and then with all the parts it costed me $3,900. But it only has 2,000 miles, and if you are to buy it from a dealer, it will probably be $6,500. But this bike has a rebuilt title, so the value will be a little bit lower from clean title. And then we can go here on the second example. This is a 2006 Yamaha Majesty. I basically just changed the windshield on this. I added it because it had it missing, and I'm going to fix soon these headlights because the tab is broken. But it starts, it drives. I've been driving it for quite a while now, and I just changed the battery too. And as you see here, these are the only damages to this bike. As you see here, a couple of scuffs and stuff like that, but like nothing major. And I bought this bike for $500 from the auction, and again it was from Geico insurance company. And I've basically registered it, and I drive a 400cc scooter that would cost it probably like $3,000 or $2,800 for only $600. So there are a lot of good deals on the auctions, but you have to search for them and make sure not to get scammed from private sellers, and make sure to inspect the bikes or cars at the auction. That is very important because pictures don't do it justice. But in my opinion, it's really worth it to buy bikes or cars at the auction because you can have a great deal on them. And basically I would just take those steps, precautions, make sure the bike is right, inspect it and everything like that, and bid on it, and you would have a great deal rather than buying it out of the dealer or anything like that. And it would be fun to replace the parts and repair it yourself. I really enjoy doing that. So that was today's video. If you guys have any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye.